Good morning, everyone. At this time, we will call the Audit and Control Committee meeting to order. It is 8:37, and it is November 14th. That's okay. If everyone's had an opportunity to read the minutes from the last couple of meetings, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
And a second? Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Carried. Privilege of the floor. Is anyone here to speak to the privilege of the floor this evening or this morning? Not seeing anyone, we'll move into our resolutions. The first three resolutions are discussion item. They will not be voted on today, but we will discuss them. The first one is renew and amend the resolution 2/2024, acceptance of FAA funds to purchase ARFF testing equipment at the Chautauqua County Jamestown Airport.
Good morning, Shannon Fisher, Chautauqua County Airports.
Chad Marks, Department of Fiscal Management for Deputy Director.
And I'll let Chad give you more details, but these were already approved. I believe this was just to set up the H accounts. And
Correct,
if you
yes.
have more details on that.
These were, all three of these first three were previously approved resolutions that were incorrectly put into the wrong capital project accounts. So these are just amendments to correct the project accounts.
So just switching it in.
Correct. Establishing accounts and switching the money, moving the money to those accounts.
Okay. Committee questions, comments? Okay. Not hearing any, we'll go on to the next one, which I assume might be the same sort of a spiel, but
Same thing.
the number two is renew and amend resolution 2/2024, accept FAA and New York State DOT funds to rehabilitate runway 1331 pavement and reconstruct runway 1331 lighting and signage design.
The same spiel,
Correct.
so just establishing the correct H account.
Okay. Are the numbers okay? I mean, we actually have some time into these now. Are they faring where they should be?
These were, yes, our testing equipment. Is that what were the first one? We had just, I believe, just purchased it, got the vendor established. And then the Rehabilitate Runway 1331 project for design, they've just begun both of these next two projects for the design of. So, but yeah, numbers are all the same, everything, nothing changes on the FAA end of it.
Good. Any other questions? And our next one is to renew and amend resolution 2/2324, accept FAA and New York State DOT funds to reconstruct terminal building design.
Same situation, just incorrect account.
What was the error with the, I mean, was it just a wrong number?
Input
Very
error,
Minimal,
yes.
was it just?
Yeah, just an input error.
Just input error, okay.
On the initial resolution format.
Any questions or comments on this one? Nope. Okay, thank you. We'll move into our proposed resolutions. Number 4 is amend the 2024 budget to implement the Chautauqua County Jamestown Airport Restaurant Equipment Upgrade Project using funding from the American Rescue Plan Act.
So, a couple months ago, I'm sure you remember, we asked for some improvements, and we were looking to get a restaurant into to the airport. And it was brought to our attention that there were maybe some ARPA funds that we could apply for improvements, and we were able to apply for 3 pieces of equipment and the renovations to our freezer through the ARPA program, and it has been approved. And this is just to transfer the funds into the airport's budget from the ARPA.
Comments, questions?
I'd just like to say, I'll be supporting this, and this is a good way to get the equipment into the restaurant that's needed to fulfill the lease agreement.
Thank you, Bob.
I agree. I think it was a good move to kind of slow this down, to make sure that we got the equipment in there that was needed and right. I think it was a wise decision to get the equipment in there so that they could operate reasonably. It's a lot to burden a tenant with, especially a new tenant with the equipment needs, if it's, it didn't seem to make a lot of sense. So here it is, now maintain it and take care of it too, so, because it didn't, you know. But, any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Proposed resolution number 5 is amend the 2024 budget for liability insurance, property loss for Jamestown Airport claim and expense.
Yep, so this one, we had an accident on August 5th, and we had to do, we made some property damage claims. One was rehabilitating our runway, approximately 1,200 feet of it, and the other, we had about 1,400 cubic yards of contaminated soil from the fuel soaking into the ground, and we, unbeknownst to us, we had an active drain underneath that was cracked, that made the fuel go into the earth, so we had to remove a whole lot more soil, take it to the landfill, than we anticipated. And this was the claim for that, and I believe this is just the transfer of funds from the insurance portion of it. Maybe Kitty has more to add to that.
Yes, we decided to create a separate account so we can track all the expenses associated with these repairs. And then the revenue associated, that would be insurance recoveries.
And everything is complete. Actually, after tomorrow, our final pavement markings are done, and it was a very smooth process, and we appreciate everyone's help on that.
Question pertaining to this, would we expect a rate increase after claims? You know, I mean, we've experienced some other accidents. Have we experienced one then? And what would be expected moving forward with this?
Well, that was asked on Monday's meeting as well, and I believe we just got an email back from Dennis regarding that, saying that they asked for it differently. They didn't go through the airport's liability, so it didn't look like an increase was gonna happen, but I'm sure there's better technical terms.
The recoveries are from the other party, so it's not claimed through our insurance policy because their policy is covering the damages.
Okay.
It's my understanding.
Yep. So it looks like, I think we pay for it up front, and then they go after the pilot's insurance company, and then after working with them, it seems like they then go after each part of the aircraft, and to see who's liable as well. Always trying to put it on someone else. But.
Yeah, and behind the scenes, tracking all that takes place
Yes.
after an accident, and what the insurance companies will trace down and track down is really,
Yeah,
really an interesting chain to follow.
it has been, and yeah, we had to track all of our time, any food expenses, I mean, anything that was pertaining to the project.
Okay. Committee questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, Dennis Brooks also answered a question from the previous committee that this will have no impact on the county's rating with our insurance carrier. That question was raised, even if the claim isn't filed with our insurance carrier, will it have any impact? And he assured us that it will have no impact.
Thank you, and that's good. It's you know, with the insurance costs today that we experience, it's accidents happen.
Mhm.
That's to be expected, and they'll continue to happen. But you know, that's at the end of the day why we have the insurance.
Right.
So
And we have had other accidents, you know, even last year, and then smaller ones, but we haven't claimed any property damage, at least since I've been here, and I think longer. This one just happened to be right on the runway.
yeah. Any other questions or comments? Not hearing any. Let's vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next proposed resolution number 6 is amend the 2024 adopted budget to the North County Industrial Water District number 1.
Matt Olbeck, Director, North Stock Lake Sewer District here for North County Industrial Water District. This resolution is to move money from the contractual account to a employee benefits account that was an error entered in the 2024 budget. Fortunately, we have money in the contractual account to be able to cover.
Insurance change?
Gatsby?
Post-retirement benefits. It's kind of, yeah,
Okay.
little more than what was budgeted.
Questions, comments from the committee? Not hearing any, we'll vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 7 is to amend the 2024 budget, North County Industrial Sewer District number 1.
This one would be to move money from the fund balance to cover a manhole that was damaged and had to be repaired by a contractor, and we didn't have enough money budgeted in 2024 for that. There is quite a substantial fund balance, so in the amount of $1,464.
Did you say it was damaged by a contractor?
I don't know. I don't know if it was a car went off the road, or somebody mowing shoulders, or,
Not too worried about tracking it down, you just want to fix it.
yeah. I mean, I don't think it was a car that went off the road, because there was a post right by it that was not knocked over, so,
It was clearly marked and everything, though?
yeah. I mean, it could have been mowing shoulders.
Maybe, I'm sure their blades found out too, so not the only expense lost, just the
Possibly.
manhole cover. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 8 is authorized acceptance of ESD grant for North Chautauqua County Water District.
Grant. This is the
Oh, okay,
Kathy did the
sorry.
other
Kitty Crow, Director of Finance. So the North County Water District, there was one of the grants where there was not a resolution to accept the grant. And we actually did receive the money this week, and so we need to just add the revenue into the budget. There's no offset here because the project appropriations are already fully budgeted. So this $1 million will, in essence, reduce the amount that we will need to borrow for once the project is fully completed. So we'll just, reduce that amount left over that we need to issue serial bonds by $1 million.
Okay. Questions, comments? Is this what we expected?
Yes, we just realized that there had not been a resolution to
Sure.
accept the grant previously, so.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next proposed resolution, number 9, is amend the 2024 adopted budget for the South Center LSD sanitary sewer, whatever all those are. Chautauqua Lakes, what is it all?
Tom Walsh, Director of the South and Center Chautauqua Lake Sewer District.
You left a couple out, didn't you?
And then if you tie that in with the South and Center Chautauqua Lake Sewer District West Side Chautauqua Lake Sewer Extension, Phase 1 or 2, then you can just cover the whole page.
Shouldn't there be a CH in there?
We'll work on that.
I like the organization.
Thank you.
What do we have in front of us today?
So this resolution is moving money within the department's budget. This money is to cover the cost of a pickup truck that we did budget for. But unfortunately, following COVID, pickup trucks were very difficult for us to order and obtain. In 2021, this truck was actually, the funds were actually budgeted for the 22 budget. We ordered the truck in August of 2022. In 2023, the money was encumbered into the budget because it had not been delivered yet. In November of 23, they canceled our order. So going into 23, there was no resolution, but we went ahead and ordered the truck, and there was a little bit of miscommunication. And so this is a resolution to cover that cost, and we have the money within our budget.
With interest.
With interest. So the bottom line is COVID's fault. Okay, right. Yeah, I think that's probably the last time I can use that one, but
Questions, comments? Did you have to keep a truck longer?
we do. Prior to COVID, we had a fantastic program, and it was actually mimicked or copied from Erie County, buying trucks and selling every 2 years off the state contract,
Yep.
and we did very well with that.
I understand now this puts you behind schedule.
It
so-
has, and so
Yeah.
now the trucks, we're now going to, we looked at the financials of it, we are going to keep trucks a few years longer, because the cost of obtaining them is a little higher, resale's a little lower, so we're gonna keep them a couple years longer.
I knew that you traded them freshly. I would see them
Yes.
on the auction sites, and
Yeah.
they were, usually they would bring a good dollar.
We did very well with that.
But, it's hard when you kind of get broken cycle. You either
Yep.
have to just take the hit in those couple of years and move forward. But it is what it is.
Yep, for sure.
Other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Proposed resolution number 10 is amended 2024 adopted budget, other environment, house hazardous waste.
Good morning, Aaron Gustafson, Deputy Director of Public Facilities Environment, Landfill Director. So this resolution is a little bit of housekeeping. It's just a budget amendment. We found that our 8189 account of household hazardous waste was short by roughly $1,000, and we are going to use the money from our 8166,000. It'd be our closed landfill account. Their employee benefit accounts. So the reason for the change, if I got this right from Jen, is rather than do an end of the year amendment to cover these, is because these fall into play with payrolls. So there would be budgetary approvals needed at every payroll. So this just makes the process go a lot easier till the end of the year. So.
Okay. Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next proposed resolution number 11 is the amendment 2024 budget to implement the digitization of naturalization records project using funding from the American Rescue Plan Act. It's a tongue twister.
It's fun to say, though. Hi, Emily Blevins, Deputy County Clerk. So, for those who don't know what naturalization records are, when somebody moved to America and renounced their citizenship to their previous country, they would sign paperwork. They'd have to stay here for about 5 years, and then they could become a citizen. The naturalization records reflect that. So, going back between 1814 and 1883, we've got physical paper copies of these records, and that's the only copy we have. So that's what started this plan to digitize the records. After that, from 1884 to 1977, they're stored in books, and then we also have a duplicate copy on microfilm. For those who are familiar with microfilm, it's very hard to store in a way where it doesn't degrade, and it also was done in the 70s, so the quality is not great. So plan is to use some of what's left in the ARPA funding to digitize these records to preserve them over hopefully the rest of the life of Chautauqua County. Any questions?
I've seen the records, and it was interesting. Do you get asked to pull any out on a routine basis?
All the time. So right now, because of Italy having their free healthcare, a lot of people are trying to get dual citizenship with Italy. I'm probably doing 5 a week on average, but obviously that fluctuates depending. Luckily, most of those are stored on the microfilm right now, so I'm able to tweak the coloring and the lighting on the computer in order to make a somewhat decent copy, but it takes time. So these 5 requests in a week will take me at least a day to do, in most cases, because you gotta look them up in an old book and then pull them up on the computer. Ideally, once these are digitized, we'll be able to type in a name on the computer and issue it immediately. I don't know if any of you have received a copy of your deed before in our office. It takes like 2 seconds. So really, that would be another benefit of doing this, aside from preservation, the time spent in order to retrieve these records for people. You can't even put a number on how much more efficient we'd be.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Well, that's what
No
I kind
problem.
of assumed.
Yes.
I didn't realize there was that much of a demand on the ask, and that's why I asked the
Yes.
questions. And,
We're actually getting some for Venezuela now, too. I haven't done the research on why that's important, but I'm sure it's going to be interesting once we look into it.
Any other questions or comments?
No.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
All right.
Carried.
Thank you very much.
Proposed resolution number 12 is amended 2024 budget for the Department of the Public Defender for the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services, DCJS, Aid to Defense Supplementary and Discovery Grants.
Good morning. Derek Gregory, Assistant Public Defender.
Candace Peterson, Grant Specialist for the Public Defender's Office.
This is our resolution requesting an amendment of our 2024 budget. We received funding from the Division of Criminal Justice Services, and we're already in receipt of the money. Much of the money is budgeted in our 2025 budget. This amends the 2024 budget to reflect revenue and expenses for this year.
Okay. Questions, comments? Not hearing any. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Proposed resolution number 13 is authorized contracts and agreements with local police departments for 2024 and 2025 stop DWI enforcement efforts.
Good morning, Sheriff Jim Quattrone.
Riley Emma, Fiscal Supervisor.
So this first resolution is a resolution to allow us to enter into agreement with various municipalities throughout Chautauqua County so we can pay them their share of the T-SLED. And Riley's reminding me what it stands for. Traffic Safety Enforcement and Disposition System, because I had troubles with that yesterday. We just call it T-SLED. But we get payments from the state for fines, and then we send a percentage of that back to the various municipalities.
40%.
40% for the DWI arrests that happen in those municipalities.
If we get paid.
That's correct. We are, there are approximately 1.5 4 million or 5 million that we're still waiting for money from past years. So we do have a collection agency out there trying to help us with that. So.
In our county, do you feel that how is our infractions, or how, is there a lot of law breaking in this department? Do you feel that there's a pretty
I
reasonable-
believe that, we still have a problem with DWI enforcement. It's difficult. Years ago, we had a conviction rate, we were in the top 10 of the state for conviction rates, and now we are in the bottom 10. And so, which does reduce the fines, which reduces the money coming into the Stop DWI program.
Questions, comments?
I got one. Does the money get distributed according to the performance of the arrests? Not the performance, is it just split among municipalities evenly?
No, it's based on what their disposed cases are for their municipality. So they're split up between, like, City of Jamestown, for example. Whatever cases that were disposed in the City of Jamestown, they get 40% of that revenue.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Proposed resolution number 14 is authorized execution of New York State Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Services funding grant for domestic terrorism prevention fiscal year 23.
This grant is a second time we're receiving this grant. It is a result of a mandate from New York State that each county has a threat assessment management team. So it's nice to be able to say it's a funded mandate from the state. And so we have a crime analysis employee that does crime analysis not just for the sheriff's office, but for pretty much every agency in Chautauqua County. And it pays for our meetings. And what we do is, the idea of this grant is to provide us an opportunity to be proactive on individuals who have issues going on. As we look across the United States, the targeted acts of violence, when we look at the suspects in those, there usually been red flags along the way. So it's helping us to identify that and being proactive, and hopefully get those individuals help that they need before they act out.
Oftentimes we hear that on the news that the person had red flags, Do you think it was a lack of funding that missed those, or is it just, it's just speculation, I'm sure, but each case is individualized, but.
I would say it's a lack of communication.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, at times a lack of ability to do things because of laws that are in place to protect individuals. So, sometimes all we can do is offer the help. We can't force people to get the help that they need. So, that is often the case. The other sad aspect of it is when you look at some of the major incidences, Parkland down in Florida, the suspect walked across campus with a gun case, and nobody did anything as he was walking through the campus. So there could have been, sometimes it's lack of action
Sure.
by whatever institution that it's happening at. So.
Yeah, a lot of times the law enforcement will get the black eye and say, well, it'd been on the radar. Okay, well, why didn't they don't include, as sometimes, like you just said, is the law doesn't enable you to be able to do it efficiently or get the person before. And also, like you said, you offer the services, but it takes the person accepting and going down that path. So yes, it was on the radar, but you guys did do the job at the end of the day, and it just is what it is. So
right.
I'm glad that we have some grant money to help mitigate anything like that, and it's great. So.
And you will be seeing, hopefully very soon, we'll have some billboards out with a contact. We have a website that will be going live before the end of the year, where people can log on, anonymously or otherwise, and report, activities or things that they're concerned about. So.
Might be interesting what you get. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, who are you partnering with, other than your department?
We send invites out to every school district.
Okay.
Business. It used to be, we had what they called the STAR program, and it was instituted, I believe, in 2018 or 2019, and it was just with the school districts. When this went into effect 3 years ago, we started branching out, and this is at the request of the state, to businesses. We've reached out. We're having a meeting, I believe, mid-December, where we're inviting Wegmans, Cummins, and some of the larger employers around. And so schools, either their superintendents or their safety representatives, are sending people to these meetings.
Any other questions or comments? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next proposed resolution number 15 is amendment 2024 budget to implement the Taylor Training Center air conditioning project using funding from the American Rescue Plan Act.
Good morning, Sam Zafuto, Deputy Director of Finance, here for the Department of EMS. The Director does send his regrets. He was not able to be here this morning. And the next three resolutions are all uses of budget amendments for use of ARPA funds. This first one is for a air conditioning unit at the Taylor Center on Harrison that we discussed last night at Public Safety that currently does not have heating or cooling. That would be used by essentially other EMS, possibly the municipalities and other county departments for training at that building. I did get a little bit more info from Noel. The question was asked the size. He thought it was a 20 by 30 space, and it would be a ductless ceiling unit that we would be purchasing and putting in.
Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Proposed resolution number 16 is amended 2024 budget to implement the firefighter gear washer project using funding from the American Rescue Plan Act.
Yep, so this again is a budget amendment for the use of ARPA. This is for the gear washer, which is not like a clothes washer that we have at our house, but it's a heavy duty piece that is designed for firefighting gear to remove the carcinogens, the water, the cleaning agents for basically the county departments that have turnout gear, which would be EMS. Some of the airport staff also would have turnout gear, and some of the municipalities may have use of this as well. And they also believe this may possibly be able to extend some of the use of some of our gear too by the regular cleaning.
Do we have one now?
We do not.
It surprises me, I suppose. We have a lot of turnout gear, and I guess we purchased a lot to make sure our employees have been properly equipped. So it'll be great to get this. I know a lot of most fire departments in the county have them. I'm sure that the people we probably have been sharing and using some of those.
Imagine, yeah.
But after you get this, I'm sure that there's going to be an announcement so people know that we have it.
Yep. I'm sure once it's in place, once procurement's done and all that, we would announce it.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Make sure we use our the specialist from the county executive's office.
Yep.
And, this is right up his alley. So,
Yep.
Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Proposed resolution number 17 is amended 2024 budget to implement the fire extinguisher training system project using funding from the American Rescue Plan Act.
Yep, so again, this is a budget amendment for ARPA. This is basically a training for the use of fire extinguishers. You'd basically be in a an LED setting, but shooting the fire extinguisher. And kind of the notes the department gave is perfect for training firefighters down to office staff, just regular people. Again, as they mentioned last night, there'd be potential for training through the municipalities as well for this, or maybe even other county departments.
Questions, comments? Anything we lost on our insurance rating we'll gain back with
Yep.
this initiative. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Proposed resolution number 18 is amended 2024 budget to increase personnel services early intervention.
Good morning. Lacey Wilson, Public Health Director. I'm here to present a resolution. It's a budget neutral, basically line item move within our budget to cover personal services costs. Basically boils down to be some overtime for our early intervention staff. For those of you who have been here for a while, you've heard us come and talk about the early intervention program and kind of the added stress on that program over the last year and a half in regards to the number of children being referred to that very necessary and state mandated program. So this is a resolution again to just transition that money from one account in our budget to another. We were creative and able to squeeze some money from one section of the budget to cover this so that it wasn't an additional ask in local share. And then, of course, we have forecasted in our strategic planning for 2025 to ensure that these costs are covered, having a better projected amount for the number of children that we're seeing.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the committee? Not hearing any. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next proposed resolution is number 19. It's to authorize lease renewal with City of Jamestown for office space for the Department of Mental Hygiene.
Good morning, Trish McLennan, Deputy Director with Department of Mental Hygiene and Social Services. And I'm here to present resolution. We'd like to renew our lease with, in Jamestown at City Hall for our outpatient mental health and substance abuse clinic. And we've had that site, I was asked last night, and I way underestimated. I said at least 15 years. It's been about 30 years. So we are definitely well established at that setting. Last year I did come, as many of you may remember, and asked that we only have a one-year lease. At the time, we were not having a lot of success in some of the safety and physical concerns being addressed. Since that time, Mayor Eklund has done a remarkable job of working very closely with us. She's been a real partner. We meet with her at least weekly. I saw her in person last week. Carmela Hernandez also works with her, and she has been taking very active steps to both address safety and physical concerns. So we are requesting a 5-year lease. Another reason for the 5-year, in addition to we are comfortable where we're at, is that there is an opportunity under OASIS, which is Office of Addiction Services and Supports, that if we have a 5-year lease, I can request additional up to $150,000 every 2 years to help with minor maintenance, not the things that Mayor Eklund would be responsible for, but for additional, for example, trauma-informed paint colors, some different type of furniture that may be more appropriate, but things that could actually help with the treatment of folks there. So that's another reason that we'd like to request a 5-year lease for this. So we are, cost-wise, maximum of 4% per year for each year, and that would be, the rent would be not able to exceed 4% each year, and then all utilities are included in that except for phone and internet. And that's been standard across the time. That's not changed.
Questions, comments? Not hearing any. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Proposed resolution number 20 is the evaluation in prioritization of 2% occupancy tax grant program applications.
Good morning, I'm Dave McCoy, Chautauqua County Watershed Coordinator. I work within the Department of Planning and Development.
And Nate Aldrich, Economic Development Coordinator.
The 2% occupancy tax program has been around since 2009. During that time, there's been a few changes, but essentially the program functions well and is very popular amongst our constituents. During the summer, a concern was raised by the Economic Development Committee about the anonymity of the people who review and prioritize the applications. These are folks that are volunteers. It's a big effort. It takes between 40 and 60 hours of their time. I certainly appreciate their contributions and efforts, and it's very difficult, as you may realize, to find people from the private sector who are willing to volunteer that level of effort with no compensation or remuneration. What we're proposing to do here is change the way they are evaluated and prioritized. The applications will come in on the same schedule, essentially April 1st. Be preliminary reviewed by myself, Watershed Coordinator, scored, and tentative rankings will be assigned. Those rankings will then be reviewed by senior department staff in the Department of Planning and Development, followed by a review by the chairman of the legislature and the county executive for eventual inclusion in the following year's budget. In this case, it would be for the 2025 year budget. And that's it.
So no board. So,
Pardon me?
I didn't hear a board still
No
in that
review
process.
panel.
So the review panel is just being taken, is being negated.
Correct.
The other thing still happened, as you explained, right? There was a review panel in there also?
It was an informal review panel,
Okay.
and to make it formal, just not feasible with
Okay.
the ethics training and financial disclosure. So this is a much more prudent and efficiently in terms of administering the grant program.
Okay. Questions, comments?
Well, this will make it easier for people to go after who they disagree with. I'm just kidding, but we know who's making the decisions.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said this will make it easier for people to go after individuals who they disagree with on the funding process.
Yeah, largely because their contact information, home address, and the rest of it will all be public information at that point. Things have changed in the last decade or so, you know, with how people treat each other, unfortunately.
Do you take more applications than you have funding? What's the trend?
We are underfunded by probably 500%. We'll typically get 40 or 45 applications, as was the case for 2025. And we'll probably fund 8. We have 4 from the watershed side of the program and 4 from the in-lake side of the program that are included in the 2025 budget. So we could use a lot more money. But then again, we look at funding projects that are important from not only an environmental perspective, but there's an increasing focus on increasing tourism and recreation opportunities in the county, which, if you really look at the way the program is intended, takes occupancy tax dollars that are generated by people who come here to the county to enjoy our lakes and waterways, and takes those revenues and uses them to improve those lakes and waterways. So it's a cyclical, sustainable program. And actually, it's been recommended by New York State for an award back in 2017 for environmental sustainability.
It's understood, if a project that doesn't get selected, depending on the project, is it usually, what do you see as a tendency? Does it get funded some other way, or they just dismiss the project? Or do they keep reapplying? So, just an average tendency. I know you have a lot that that obviously don't make the cut each year, and some get timed out, but what's your speculation?
Yeah. It's a little of both. We've worked with some homeowner groups that have problems in their little subdivisions, and their roads are privately owned and their infrastructure is privately owned. They don't have the assets that maybe a municipality has. So we try to help them get into the program. But also we work with municipalities as well. We do road ditch stabilizations, sedimentation ponds, things like that for those types of users, if you will. Often we work with local not-for-profits that have some very worthy initiatives, and they haven't been able to fund them, or will tackle them if they have the funding available.
Okay. Other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next proposed resolution number 21 is the request of inclusion of proposed new JCC athletic complex in SUNY Capital's request for the 2025-2026 executive budget. Thank you. Morning, gentlemen. If you just introduce yourselves for everyone and everyone that's listening abroad.
Good morning, Daniel DeMart, President, Jamestown Community College.
And John Barber, Interim CEO with the Jamestown Area YMCA.
So what we'd like to do is share with you an overview of the scope of the project, the cost of the project, and John will talk about the benefits. I want to speak about the scope of the project from the handout that I provided you, two-sided handout. What we are proposing is an exciting collaboration between the YMCA and Jamestown Community College. What the visual shows on the colored side is the construction of a new YMCA facility you see in the blue on the left. On the right-hand side, the gray is the existing physical education complex, JCC's physical education complex, and the space in between the yellow is new shared space. The entirety of the new space, the yellow and the blue, and what you see in the green in the upper right-hand quarter, is about 70,000 square feet. The Y facility is approximately 30,000 square feet, and the balance outside of the green is the shared space that would be used by both the YMCA and the college. If you flip the page over, what you see on this side is the turf fields. So on the back side of the building, behind the existing building, that's where our existing soccer field is, that would be turfed, and then perpendicular to that field and adjacent to Curtis Road would be the second soccer field. And the soccer fields would also have baseball and softball. One field would have baseball overlay on it, the other would have softball. The total cost of the project is $44 million. And then breaking that down in rough numbers, approximately $24 million of that is the colleges, including the renovation of the existing space and adding the turf fields, and 50% of the shared space. And the balance, approximately $20 million, is the Y's cost. When you break down the college's cost and how our capital projects are typically funded, the state typically provides 50% of the cost of our capital projects. So the $24 million on the college's portion, 12 of that would be covered by the state. Historically, we have asked for county support for 25%, that's roughly $6 million. and the college would be responsible for the balance. And then the Y has its own plan for funding its 20 million portion of the project. So that's a very high-level overview of the scope and the budget. Of course, there's a lot more detail, and we can get into that if you'd like. I'll turn it over to John to share the benefits.
So the Y did begin to look at their own plans for a new YMCA along Harrison Street in Jamestown, and it was going to be a standalone project that was priced in the neighborhood of $33 million with 2022 funding. What we encountered as we were working on that project is we got to a point of about $5 million on that project dedicated, but we're really starting to see that not only was our $33 million figure maybe actually going to be higher, but also it was going to be difficult to be able to bridge that gap. And so that's when we began to talk with JCC about the possibility of collaborating on a project. And I think some of the potential outcomes that we can see from this are pretty significant. The Y began its process because our facility, which is approaching 100 years old, has really served us well, but now becomes a facility that's, number one, difficult to maintain, two, it's sort of chopped up. And the work of the Y affects ages from birth all the way to folks that are in their 90s. In fact, we have a 100-year-old swimmer that are approaching 100-year-old swimmer who still has competed up until the last couple of years. And so the Y reaches all ages, and the ability to be able to maintain that kind of programming right now with our facility is in danger, simply because our ability to be able to recruit, maintain, and have folks be able to access our facilities is significant. The outcomes that we're anticipating affect not only access to fitness and wellness, but really our work in several sectors. You can see that there's a child care wing. We have a current child care center that provides spots for up to 50. This would allow us to almost double that to 90 in that facility, allowing access certainly to students at JCC, students, faculty, but also expanding child care availability in a region where we know that that's a needed resource. In addition, our work with teens and after school and support structures, all of that would actually find a home to be able to be sustained there. And as a bottom line for the work of the Y across the community, which affects both what you see in the drawings before you in a building, but a lot of the work of the Y happens well beyond its doors. But having a healthy Y in a community is part of what sustains that. After school programs that are occurring in three public schools, day camps, our meal programs that are serving around 80,000 meals a day. All of these find their root and source in our branch, in our Jamestown area branch, even if they may have some physical elements to them that's outside our facility. And so when we encounter JCC, what they have actually is a real need to be able to solidify what's happening with them in terms of student athletics and recruitment, and making sure that students are finding a quality experience at the Jamestown Community College campus. And so for us, it was natural that, since access for the populations we're serving to fitness and wellness, but also the availability of excellent facilities at Jamestown Community College and its recruitment stance, this is a project we think could have a pretty dynamic outcome, not just for students at JCC, but for the entire region in southern Chautauqua County.
As John said, the Y project that they were working on in Harrison, the cost of that project was somewhere in the mid-30s. We were working on a prior project with a stadium in the city that would have also been in the mid-30s. If you had done those two projects separately, you're talking roughly 70 million. The project has shifted. This partnership we're proposing comes in at 44 million, significantly less, and I think potentially far more impactful than what we were thinking with the stadium project. And I would have to add, and Pierre, I don't know who else would be aware of this, some of you may recall 2 years ago, the stadium project discussion stalled. We brought forward as a capital request to turf our soccer field. And the response from you at the time was, well, if we're going to make an investment, let's do something more impactful. That's what we're bringing you, is a more impactful project.
Mr. Chairman, I have some additional information to share. The presentation this morning is high level. We will also have a more comprehensive presentation at the legislature meeting next Wednesday night, so all the legislators can hear the presentation. And the business plan for this proposed project will be shared with all the legislators before that meeting. The next point I would like to make is that if you look at the proposed resolution, the last resolved clause has something slightly different than what we have normally done in our resolutions of support for JCC, and that it states that the county intent to fund is based on the joint project as proposed proceeding. And the reason for that is that now we have several funding elements to this project, being SUNY funding, JCC funding, and the YMCA funding in addition to the county funding. So if for whatever reason this project needs to be altered, our commitment is based upon the project as presented to us now. And if the project needs to be altered, it would need to come back to us for reconsideration. So not any diminution of our support, but just to clarify that since there is another partner involved in the process now, that we want to make sure that it's clear that we're supporting the project as currently proposed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could address as well?
Please.
County Executive Wendell. You know, this is something that President DeMar brought to me a couple years ago, and I've been supporting. If you look at the discussion we've had in the past, the facilities upgrade is vital. When you look at most of our high school athletes and how do you entice, students to come to a university or college, it's, on multiple levels, but one of them is your athletic facilities. When we're asking students to stay local and begin their college career here, and they realize that they're going back to their high school and the facility's much better, it's hard to draw kids and bring those FTEs to JCC. So this is one much needed. President DeMar, drew to it, but they've had regional soccer games where it was questionable whether they can even host them on their field because of the situation, the water, and the inability to play. So what you're seeing isn't luxury, but more a necessity. The second part is, to me, in a sense, it's a no-brainer because the model works. If you look at, JCC's Cattaraugus County Olean campus, their YMCA is integrated with JCC's facility. So here we see that what we're doing is replicating a successful model and actually enhancing the services that that are available to our residents. There's questions that come up, transportation, et cetera. These are things that have been discussed and outlined. So I stand behind this. Again, I think it's a very worthwhile project. And when you look at the number of, the dorms have increased FTEs at SUNY JCC, this new athletic facility, and the YMCA project, and the cohabitation, if you will, of the facility, I think is going to draw even more. So I'm definitely behind this 100%. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a comment. As I said last night, this is really dynamic, and I'm so excited about what you are doing and what you will be doing as this moves forward. So I'm in full support of it.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, if I may, I've got three colleagues with me in the back. George Sisson, our athletic director, Professor John O'Brien, who is not only a longtime college professor at JCC, but he also has been a longtime director of the Camp Onyasa.
YMCA Camp Onyasa.
That's right. And I think you all know Kathleen Dennison. We're very fortunate to have her in the role she's in as Vice President for Finance and Operations, and all have had a hand in helping to shape this plan. You guys want to add anything?
I think it's been well said. Synergy is the word. Tremendous synergies of potential.
Thank you.
I want to thank you. You mentioned that you had a proposal that was brought forth a little bit ago.
Yes.
And I'm thankful that you took the inaction on that and didn't take it that it wasn't something that the county wasn't interested in complete. We wanted to support a project, just a correct project. So I'm thankful that you was able to find a great community partner and bring a project forward that is as you presented today. A couple questions that I have is, could you elaborate a little more on the ability of the YMCA to come up with their portion of the funding?
So our portion is around 20 million. What we're anticipating in terms of our projections is that some of the foundation support that was there when we were doing a $30 million project, which was around 5 million, that we'll be able to sustain that. Now, in terms of bridging that gap, what we're going to be looking for is there may be resources through a CFA state grant that we're going to be seeking out. We are going to be seeking out congressionally directed spending to be able to support this project. We're in the process right now of applying for a federal EPA community change grant, which would be a community-wide project, but it would have the primary place of impact being with this project. The JCC YMCA Center is a resiliency center, but it would affect a variety of community projects in the Jamestown area. That application is being done now, and it could actually would really propel this project forward, because awards for that are anywhere from $10 million or $20 million. So that would provide a significant thrust to this project to move it forward. But we are in the process of identifying to be able to get from that 25% mark that we have to be able to complete that funding source.
There's a lot of people that need to obtain their funding sources for the project to be viable and to move forward. And projected, if I missed it, I'm sorry, projected dates, anything like that.
So assuming that the resolution we're proposing is acted on and supported by the legislature, our next step is to package the project as part of our capital request to SUNY, and that needs to be done by mid-December.
Mm-hmm.
The goal would be that it would land in the governor's budget this coming year.
Mm-hmm.
So if that all happened, we wouldn't start architectural drawings probably until next summer.
Okay.
That's a rough timeline and still some unknowns, so we need to see how SUNY's going to view this once we submit to them. And we have been in dialogue with them all along, so they're aware of the project. They've seen the business plan, they've seen the financials. We're waiting on them to tell us from their view, how do we proceed?
Couple nitty-gritty questions too. It's a lot more facility to maintain.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see that being an issue moving forward, or is there going to be collaboration in that as well? I'm sure you've thought of that, but
Yeah. From an operational perspective, when you look at the rendering in front of you, there's Y exclusive space, there's college exclusive space. Where the challenges will come in is in the shared space.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going into this with the understanding that it's 50-50 ownership for now, but we will write an operational plan, and it will take probably 2 to 3 years to determine the best use of that space, how to staff it, what that looks like.
Okay.
But we write the MOU in a way that provides us the flexibility to adjust as we go.
We have a good basis, even with an expanded facility, to be able to project out some of the known expenses. So in terms of square footage for occupancy, we can kind of project those even now, and then also for personnel, what that's going to look like.
the daycare portion is very important. I know our areas have suffered for the lack of facility, and I'm thankful that that's being, that is going to be increased. I think that would be a great benefit for some of the JCC staff if they utilize it, the project looks pretty good. Questions, comments before we move forward? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next proposed resolution, number 22, is the authorized agreement with Small Business Development Center at Jamestown Community College.
Good morning again, Nate Aldrich, Economic Development Coordinator. I have the next 5 resolutions here, and they're all similar in the sense that after the budget is approved, we come before the legislature for authorization to enter into agreements to actually spend some of this money. So this first one here with the Small Business Development Center at JCC, again, they do great work. Courtney Curacholo and her team offering business planning assistance, financial modeling, permit assistance, other support, and really hand-holding for our small businesses, startups, entrepreneurs. They have exceptional numbers that have increased over the last few years, and they provide the legislature quarterly reports of that work. Courtney Curatolo sends her regrets she couldn't be here, but wanted me to pass along that as of September 30th, the first 3 quarters of the year, they've assisted close to 700 businesses in Chautauqua County alone.
Questions, comments? Not hearing any. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? And carried. Thank you. Next proposed resolution is 23, authorized agreement with the County Chautauqua Industrial Development Agency for attractions and development of tourism-related businesses.
So for the last several years, the IDA has made a concerted effort to focus on tourism and hospitality business development. Again, this is an annual contract that's required after the budget is approved to authorize entry into the agreement with the IDA. This particular agreement's funded exclusively with the 3% program funding, the occupancy tax. And it really supports the IDA's capacity, as I said, to focus on advancing projects that have tourism hospitality focus. Among them, the Hideaway Bay Resort that opened earlier this summer. I was pleased to attend the soft opening Monday night of the White Inn. So it's allowing us to focus on some of those important projects that help us drive more tourism destinations in the county.
So those couple projects you just stated are projects that the funding from last year actually contributed to?
Up until 2025, that funding supported, the IDA's operational budget, our staff, consultant support, marketing efforts. In 2025, we've earmarked it really specifically for marketing. Our Choose CHQ, Live CHQ initiatives, but it will all be tourism and hospitality business directed.
Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Proposed resolution number 24, authorized agreement with County of Chautauqua Industrial Development Agency for business development assistance and promotion.
Again, really the same thing with this resolution. In 2025, we plan to market or allocate the majority of this funding specifically to support primarily our marketing activities, again, focusing on business attraction. We had last evening in the Planning and Economic Development Committee, our marketing coordinator, Jason Sample, kind of give an overview of 2 related initiatives we launched this year, Choose CHQ and Live CHQ. Choose CHQ is really focused on business attraction. Marketing the county is a good place for economic opportunity, whereas Live CHQ is kind of focused on quality of life, geared towards talent attraction, retention. With these resources, we really want to, push out that promotional material, advertising, marketing Chautauqua County for business attraction, especially our shovel-ready sites we're working on, Ripley, Mason, Park.
Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next proposed resolution 25 is authorized agreement with Chautauqua County Region Economic Development Corporation for Greenway Development.
So this is the 3rd year of this allocation, and we were able, with growing occupancy tax revenues, to reinstall a budget line specifically for Greenway development. And we have a partnership between our department and CRITIC, Chautauqua Region Economic Development Corporation, whereas we've contracted with an individual, Jacob Bodway, and he's really out on the ground, forming partnerships among various trail entities and prioritizing trail maintenance projects. With his assistance, there's a real great return on the county's investment here. We've seen over $850,000 of investment in trail maintenance and marketing those trails in the last 4 years or so. So again, this year alone, we had over $100,000 investment in the Cusimano West Side Overland Trail. Jacob's out there raising other funds via local philanthropy, New York State, and investing in our trail system so we can promote it both for active living, outdoor recreation, but also for, checks kind of both that quality of life and that tourism attraction box.
The trails it's a valuable asset that we have based on our geographics and our landside in country that we have here in Chautauqua County. So it's great that we are continuing to support that and to put the funds into that program and maintain what we do have, but also extend what we have, which we've done some extensions. And so I'm thankful for the focus on this area, and I think that this surprisingly probably can bring in just as many individuals to the county as say the lake, in sense of the ability to take those trails, utilize some of the kayaking creekways that we have, and to be able to do some mountain biking. There's some good clubs in the area that help promote that as well and try to draw in friends and people and individuals. So it's a great program. So.
In addition to, just real quick, in addition to maintaining our trails and focusing on new trail development, we've also focused this summer on marketing and letting both our own residents and visitors to the county know what assets we have here. So if you haven't checked it out, visit chqtrails.com, and we have all our trail systems in one place for the first time. Online interactive map application. It's really designed for you to kind of get the lay of the land before you go out on the trail from that website. And then we have third-party app developments where you don't even require a cell signal or Wi-Fi as long as you have GPS. You can, any trail in the county, you can know where you are and make sure you're going the right way as well. So we've had a ton of views to that particular page on our site. I was corrected last night. It's now the #2 highest viewed page on our website. So
yeah, that's great. It shows, like I stated, I didn't know that information, just making my statement, and it's people are interested in that, and they're looking at it and they're going to utilize it. So it's great that we're investing in it. So that, or it's just not getting many hits. I don't know. Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The next proposed resolution 26 is authorized agreement with Chautauqua Region Economic Development Corporation for tourism development and placemaking.
Placemaking is sort of a buzzword, but if you think in terms of supporting activities like downtown revitalization, waterfront activation, improvements to our parks, recreational amenities, trails, all of those sorts of projects kind of fall into this category, and it's trying to kill two birds with one stone, improving our communities, but also the occupancy tax, home rule legislation. When you read the eligible uses of those funds, yes, they're meant to support tourism, but they're also kind of broad categories of improving the aesthetic values of the county, our gateways, making this a friendly, welcoming community, attractive, that people want to spend time, but also to live, work, conduct business, visit. So, this $50,000 goes to CRITIC to support the efforts of the Partnership for Economic Growth. We're advancing a number of projects really in all corners of the county, not only the two cities, but our smaller towns, hamlets, villages. And this supports a number of projects. And the whole idea is to try to leverage outside resources and bring, state, federal philanthropic dollars to advancing a wide array of projects that, community development, downtown revitalization focused.
Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I think that's it. Thank you.
I think that's it. Thank you for coming in today.
Thanks.
Thank you for being patient. You're the last on the agenda. Next time we'll put you in the top.
Sounds good. Good job.
At this time, I think we'll just keep going through our agenda items. Our next item on the agenda today is a discussion for the compliance report with the Director of Human Resources, Debbie Makowski. I believe on our desks in front of us, we have a compliance report.
Good morning. Debbie Makowski, Director of Human Resources. So technically this is the report for October, but I could not attend audit and control last month, so we can go over it this morning. Same format as the last 2 or 3 formal compliance reports. I'll continue with this format going forward, so it'll sort of be a little standard, getting familiar with what topics that we'll cover each time. First point, countywide annual training. Current deadline is December 4th. It is approaching, so we're working feverishly to wrap up any incomplete training modules. Fall 2024 had 14 modules included. I think we're seeing at this point roughly 60% complete. I want to say there's another potentially 200, 260 individuals that are in process. They've at least started one or more, but they're not 100% complete. Yep.
That might be me. Might not even be in that category.
Not even started?
Sorry.
Okay.
I'll get there.
If you need help with it. I got a question on these.
Okay.
I believe we took these last spring, early 2024.
Some of the
Are these-
modules, yes, if
Do these
there
take care
were
of
changes.
Next year, or are we gonna do this again? When will the next cycle of these trainings come up?
So all of the trainings are annual. However, if anything either federal, state, or if we change any of our internal policies before that annual timeframe comes up, we would roll it out in the next training module.
So,
Our plan going forward is to have fall, spring, summer for training modules. So for example, if something changes in our cybersecurity policy or sexual harassment, even though we just did it in fall, if it changes and we're now required to train on those changes, we would include that in spring's training module as well. Unfortunately.
well, being one who looks forward to these trainings, I was just asking for others.
Just asking for a friend?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
And mine are complete, by the way.
Are they? Well, so to that point, we are seeing an increase in some departments or divisions of departments offering incentives or creating competitions for departments who have more than, they have multiple divisions. They're throwing it out there. Let's see what division can complete 100% completion within that division first. And then they're throwing out some type of, whether it's pizza, bringing in Tim Hortons, I've done it, I've thrown it out to my department, hey, if you can get it done by this date, then we can have a jeans day, which is huge in my department, by the way. But we're seeing more and more departments doing this, and it's working. I mean, at this point, we're not even to the deadline, and we're seeing 60% completion.
Well, I offered Jeans Day to Legislative District Number 3, and being the only one involved, I had it done like the next day.
You got it?
So I've been wearing jeans ever since.
Bravo.
Yeah, thank you.
How many times did it take you to pass the cybersecurity test?
They have changed the cybersecurity test, and it is actually, for those that are challenged with that type of thing, it's a little easier for you, or for those people, not you in particular.
That's great.
I scored very high both times, not bragging, just,
Both times you took it, this,
no, the last time we took it,
Okay.
when people struggled, and they called me for support.
Okay.
And, but it's easier it's
Yes.
easier.
So, and, yes, and we're hearing that feedback already as well, specific to cybersecurity, where it would normally say, okay, you have 4 options, select all that apply. Well, you don't know if it's one or all 4,
Right.
could be all 4. So
They narrowed it down.
they
very
narrowed it down
nicely.
to select the 2, select 2, or select 3,
Yes.
right?
And that's much easier. At the end of the day, we want to train people, let their eyes on it, and let them kind of be aware. We don't want to burden them with a very time-consuming task. I mean, it was a difficult layout last time, and quite honestly, I don't have time to be monkeying around with this test, you know?
And
And
full
so-
disclosure, I was ready to throw my computer out the window.
Understood.
Last year, I was livid. I could not pass that test.
Yeah, I agree, and that's why I specifically commented on that one, because it is difficult.
Mhm.
And part of our training isn't to be a burden, and we want it to be a seamless process. And part of why I ignore doing them sometimes is because it is a pain in the neck to pass the test.
Right.
And so I didn't, if it's easier, so I used my example when I want to make sure it's okay for, that it's doing its intent and intent only. not
Yes. Yeah, there were,
making it
there were
burden.
definitely some positive changes made, specifically to cybersecurity this time around that,
And just to clarify, last year was easy, this year was easier.
for some,
Everyone's entitled to their own opinion.
correct, correct.
Truth can hurt.
So summer's training, summer 2024, was a little bit different. That was all of the safety-related topics, which were a first to the county. We saw a lot of pushback countywide, I wouldn't say pushback, a lot of questions countywide. And I think because of all of the questions and concerns, we saw delay in completion. However, we did have 100% completion. There was delays, but they were at least completed. Any questions on the training side? Okay. Compliance committee, all of the policies that the compliance committee set out to review and update, they've been finalized and distributed. Committee is continuing to meet monthly, discussing various compliance topics and working to wrap up the final sections of the compliance work plan. Specifically related to audits, risk assessments, and reporting on audits and risk assessments. As far as breaches and incidents reporting, from April until mid-August of this year, we did see 13 HIPAA breach reports. The sheer number is concerning, of course. However, the majority were technology related. So our email system Like if you're looking to send an email to me, for example, you could type in MAK, and if you've emailed me before, my name will pop up. And people get used to that function. They just type in MAK, they hit enter, they don't even look at the actual name that automatically populates in the to field. So what was happening is, as people come and go, we were seeing emails being sent to maybe an employee who used to handle the client information that was being sent, but they had since left the department. Or we were seeing, as new employees come in to the county, as you type in MAK, it may no longer just populate my last name, it may populate someone else's. And if you just type in MAK and hit enter and don't verify, you may end up mistakenly sending an email to someone that you did not intend. Through an investigation, we did find all 13 were unfounded. We were able to recall the email, or we verified that the individual who received the email recognized that it was not intended for them, and they did not open. We have documented statements. We wrapped up our investigation. So luckily, there was no breach in any of the reported incidents. However, as a response to the number of close calls, the leadership in that division provided additional specific HIPAA-related training to the group group of employees within that division. Following the training, if there were any further close calls or reported potential breaches, we did treat that with a counseling memo, which is technically a non-discipline, but first step of discipline. And knock on wood, there have been no HIPAA breaches reported since mid-August. Just to call out, we do have 2 OTDA civil rights complaints pending a response from our submission in our response to the complaint from OTDA civil rights. Those are still lingering from the first quarter of 2024. So once we get an actual response from those, I can provide an update, but those are the only 2 that are still sort of hanging out there. Various internal and external audits that were completed. Our internal audits of early intervention billing, corrective action is pending. They were minor. 3 billing errors were identified. 1 case of illegible charting that came down to we couldn't determine what numbers they meant to chart or meant to write. 1 case of lacking notes. 1 chart discovered with the wrong billing time. We had 2 other external audits, both of which came back with no findings. And then the last one, New York State Department of Health Social Services desk review. There is a formal plan of correction that's pending still from New York State for their approval. Questions so far? Okay. So fourth quarter 2024 and first quarter 2025, the focus will be obviously back to countywide training. We're looking at 100% completion by the deadline. Again, the deadline is December 4th. We're going to continue working to complete the compliance committee work plan, continuing those monthly meetings. And then our next training module scheduled to be spring of 2025, that would be the annual code of ethics and related topics. So like false claims, compliance education and training, just hopefully moving to an annual basis for the majority of our training modules. And then I'll have another report in April of 2025.
Questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to make an observation that we have a compliance officer and a compliance committee because we have many county employees who are dealing with confidential information. And a lot of this information and the rules and regulations regarding it is very technical, very specific. And when we have that many humans dealing with this much information, errors do occur. That's why we have a compliance officer. That's why we have a compliance committee. And in reviewing reports like this, it's often easy to focus on what went wrong. But I think what's more important is focusing on what the responses were, what happened. And I think that the HIPAA breaches is a prime example that for a short period of time there were 13 potential breaches identified, and since the specific retraining was done, there have been none reported. So that's what I think the important focus of this report is what we are doing when issues are identified, and what we are doing training-wise to prevent issues in the future. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? I'm sure if one arises, you can reach out to Ms. Mikowski and ask her. Thank you for coming in today.
Thank you.
Providing us with this report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your work on it. And next on our agenda today is Blake Eric. He will be discussing some ARPA business with us today.
Good morning, Blake Eric, Director of Administrative Services. So I would like to first start off by saying I've made a few changes to this report from what we're accustomed to seeing. So typically, and what I'm required to do, is to submit a report to the Department of Treasury quarterly, which I did, and I would have a month to do so, and then we would discuss what happened, 2 months ago at the at Audit and Control. So what I did, I submitted September's, the third quarter's report in October, but the report in front of you here has the expenses and what's been obligated as of October 31st. So we can kind of discuss more current events instead of discussing what happened 2 months ago. So, and then I also added a column on the farther right-hand side here on what has been obligated as of 10/31/24, since, as everyone's aware of, the deadline by the end of this year to get everything obligated, the full awarded amount. And then obviously they have 2 years subsequent to expend that down. So I added that column here to kind of, because typically we would talk about what's been expensed, but to be honest, since we have 2 years to expend the remaining expenses down, it's more important to focus on what's actually obligated by year end. And then if you recall last, I guess a couple months ago when I was reporting, there was a project, the broadband project 51. They returned the number of 1.5 million back to the ARPA pool. So last month or so, we've been really doing our due diligence to hop on re-obligating and adopting these projects here. So if you flip to the back page here, you'll see kind of highlighted the newer projects that were adopted last month, and then what has been discussed here today. And then I have this reconciliation down here. So obviously what we have obligated as of October 31st is 23 million and some change. There's 24.6 million that was awarded to us. So there's a variance of about 1.578. I have the reconciling items here just to make sure that we're not, nothing drops through the cracks. So the reconciling items here really is just 3 previous ARPA projects that I've been in constant discussions with the department heads on this, and they're aware, and they've assured me that they will have no issues getting this obligated in the next month or so. And then I've highlighted here what was recently adopted, and then what's on today's docket. So really, again, the 1.5 million, it's definitely not, or almost 1.6, that's left to be obligated, definitely is not where we were anticipating, because we definitely thought, and we were doing a very good job of having really everything obligated, but with that 1.5 coming back, it kind of threw a wrench into everything. But with that said, I've discussed it with the department heads. I've made it abundantly clear. They've reassured me that they're doing everything they can, and I'm in constant discussions with them that they will have all these funds, remaining projects, obligated by the end of the year.
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify terminology, when Blake speaks of obligated, what he's referring to is under contract.
Yes.
So when the legislature passes a resolution for some of these projects that we discussed here today, then the funds are available to the department. The department has to have a contract in place before the end of the year. To be obligated, you have to have it under contract.
That's correct. Contract, purchase order, just having it being adopted within the budget would not count.
Questions, comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Unobligated funding, though, you will have to send back?
Not quite. There are some loopholes, if you will. There is something we could do with so overall, the amount that was awarded to us of the 24.6, majority of that, if not all of it, was due to lost revenue, which would then relinquish any ARPA restrictions. And it would be, we could essentially throw that we could have threw it all into the fund balance if we deemed necessary. But, obviously, they decided to go with the route of the intended ARPA funds and doing it by the book here. So one caveat to that. The other caveat is with the ARPA restrictions, if any unobligated funds, instead of returning that, you could use that for roads, repairing roads and maintenance there, kind of last minute, So that is kind of last minute. Now, I don't feel that we will get to that point. And, I think we have done a very good job of staying on top of this. And I think we will have all the full awarded amount obligated by year end.
Okay.
That's a very good question, Tamara, because our view of this is that we should be spending these funds as originally intended by the federal government. Personally, I don't like loopholes. We can manage effectively at the county. And so Blake has done a wonderful job of managing this program since he's taken it over. And when he says he's following up diligently with department heads, I can assure you he does that, even evenings and weekends.
Yep.
And the county executive and I put a lot of pressure on Blake to perform to our expectations, and he's doing a fabulous job with it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd like to contribute in that and say that, I thank you for the work that you've put forth into this. It was quite a task that was initially put onto the county to meet the requirements of this ARPA projects and the funding. we were very thankful for the funds, and I think through the county operations, the work of the county employees and the directors of the program and the legislature and all of our department heads, we've done a wonderful job in executing this program. And I'm thankful for all the projects that we were able to get completed. What a list, and
Yeah.
what a, you know, if we look down through here, we have 93
yeah.
93 projects. And, you know, some of them obviously were you know, I suppose if we went down through there, we could eliminate a couple, but, you know, what a great feat at the end of the day. And, you know, I think moving forward, the county needs to consider to continue to research and do something similar to this. Where the funding's coming from, I don't know. But maybe the county, maybe the federal government will announce something new coming out. But it's has been managed very well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, also county executive, to kind of echo what Chairman Chagnon said. This was a committee that was formed. Didn't have to be. I felt that was the best way to move forward. Leadership on both sides of the aisle discussing what we felt were the necessities of the county and in the intent, as the chairman said, of how the money should be spent. At the end of the day, we are going to be producing a report, if you will, almost in the way of an annual report showing where the money has been invested and what have we done with that. If you look around, very tangible items. You know, we haven't invested in other items that other municipalities have done. So I'm very excited. Again, thanking Blake. This is no small task. You know, we're moving along, and we think here's how we spend money, and then to be found out, oh, we have 1.5 we need to put back, and people would say, well, it's easy to spend money, and some might criticize, well, we do it so well. But the other side is, myself and the committee wanted to make sure that money was spent wisely. It wasn't put back into the general fund. It was spent on items. And, you know, in fact, just yesterday we got a picture of another, you know, piece of equipment through the ARPA funds that was purchased for CLA for maintenance on Chautauqua Lake. So we are able to see tangible items and tangible events that have been, you know, produced by the ARPA fund. So excited about what we've done, and there will be a report forthcoming, and to, you know, show everybody just what we've done with that $24.6 million. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments related to this report and for Blake? Not hearing any. Thank you, Blake, for coming in today and giving us an update.
Of course. Thank you.
Brings us to other on the agenda, and I do have something under other that I'd like to bring up. At our recent legislature meeting, we had a fellow legislator bring up a point that sometimes our body doesn't do what is required of the body. And so I wanted to ask that question and also answer that question. I felt that specific question that was asked during the legislature meeting was conducted in a different manner. Maybe it wasn't documented to its fullest, but also it raises question to what this committee is required to be doing. And where that responsibility falls. Sometimes we don't know what we're supposed to be doing just out of simple list of, you know, who can keep track of all the proper things. How do we make sure we don't have things that are slipping through the crack that we should be doing? You know, just as we heard the compliance report today, that's something that this body is required to do, and we've done it. We have it on the agenda, and we completed it. What are we missing? And how do we track that? And how are we supposed to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, if you will? I think it's important that I just ask that question and bring that up.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would recommend that the committee members review the county charter, which talks about the roles of the committees, and the rules and regulations of the county legislature, which also talks about the committees and what their roles and responsibilities are. And I think that a discussion amongst the committee members as to whether the committee is fulfilling the roles and responsibilities as outlined in those two documents would be a productive discussion. But I think that that's, to the greatest extent, how you could assure that you're not letting things fall through the cracks that are previously identified and anticipated. I draw that distinction because things happen, surprises happen, and you can't anticipate everything that might happen that could fall through the cracks. But certainly those two documents could give you some good direction and perspective, and I think a discussion amongst the committee members of the roles and responsibilities in those two documents could be very constructive.
Could I propose then some homework, unfortunately, for the committee, of just refreshing our memories on those documents, and maybe next month, if we could add that to a discussion for this committee, to review those documents so that we have gone through that and have had that open discussion, and what that would do is let us make sure that we are complying and raise any questions, concerns, and also, if we think that there's something that needs to be changed, we can bring that forth too. So I'd advise everyone to read that, to ask questions, raise concerns. I'm sure that the chairman, the law department will be very helpful in this to, if there is any change requests. So I would just ask that maybe someone from law, which usually is, would be present for that discussion. So if there is a law question, that we can ask it immediately. And if it's on the agenda, then others can see that we will be discussing that too. And if they wanted to forward any questions to us, that we could do that. And I'm sure that they themselves could add it to their own agenda if they so chose. But,
Mr. Chairman, I'm sure you know, but the charter and the rules and regulations are both on the county website, on the county legislature page. They're listed under forms and documents.
thank you. Questions?
And I think the timing of this is excellent because we are appointing a charter and code review committee. And so if you have some suggested changes to the charter as it relates to this committee, we'll soon have a committee to entertain those suggestions.
Great.
If you don't mind, I'm also aware of several resolutions that have been adopted over my 18-year tenure with the county that I may be obsolete at this point, but they're still technically on the books. So it might be something that those resolutions are, I don't know what the process would be to rescind them, revise them, but I'm aware of some of those items. But then there's also just the regular resolutions that are, it's a responsibility to, say, review the investment policy once a year, review the purchasing policy once a year. So I know there's been a couple of, once in a while, we kind of, oh shoot, we didn't do the investment policy this year, so now we're doing it in January or something like that. But there's no who's documented or who's really responsible for making sure, here's the list of all the resolutions the Audit and Control Committee should, policies they should review on an annual basis. And who is responsible for pre-filing those resolutions, for example. So that might help as well to have a better established list of the resolutions that need to be passed annually and, when, if there's a regular month in which they need to be done and, who would be tasked with pre-filing those resolutions.
Agreed, and those are the things that I wanted to make sure that list is available and also known, and also that we are doing it. You know, at the end of the day, yes, we just wanna make sure we're doing those, because I know that, just as you stated, some of those we have missed and we've caught up to next year. Just as, you know, a few years ago, Legislator Chairman Shagnon had brought up that each legislator should receive a number 2 pencil. It's still a resolution. I still have yet to receive my pencil since I've been on, but that isn't an
But, and
outstanding
that's what
resolution.
happens, like, sometimes a resolution is passed and then, you know, like, you know, members of the legislature, you know, come and go, and, you know, how can we better keep track of, you're not gonna find those resolutions in the charter and code or,
Correct.
you know, the rules and regulations, but they're resolutions that have been passed, and so they're still, you know.
I received a number 3 pencil, but it was too hard. I got rid of it, so I'm still waiting for my number 2 also. Just a little history. I remember a few years ago, I don't know if it was Chairman Shagnon, asking the committees to do a little more financial budget review, anticipation, discussion.
Goals and objectives.
Goals and objectives, thank you. It was you.
Yes, it was me.
And while I think it was a good ask, it tended to just, it started kind of strong and then it went away. So I guess I'm gonna be challenged a little to read these over and see what we don't. Not that that was a bad task, but a lot of what I think is written in there, like the budget review and everything, is going on, maybe not according specifically to how it's written, but we're always reviewing the budget. You know, we might not specify in every committee a time that it's budget review time. You know, we don't do that every month, but we're always aware of the budget and working on, I feel, we're always working on next year's budget and this year's budget, and sometimes last year's budget. So, you know, the wording, and it's, I don't know how to say this without saying something. We only tend to refer to any of these things when it's to make a point or to, that's all I'll say. You know, these things tend to be ignored until it's needed to make a point. And there wasn't even a request for the enforcement of it. It was just to make a point. I'll stop talking. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's an exact reason why, I don't know how we can accomplish this, but when there's things on the books that become obsolete, for example, but the resolution was never rescinded, then that sets ourselves up for, oh, you're not doing this. Oh, I found this resolution that says the legislature should be doing X, Y, Z. So not losing sight of those resolutions as they get passed, some process around that, I think, could be looked at.
And so that's what was gonna be my next question is, you know, so you gave us information on how to track down our charter and that information, but also, where are all those resolutions? And how do we know where those stand? And also, how do we review those, just as Kitty suggested, to rescind some of those that are not needed any longer?
Well, the Journal of Proceedings are published for each calendar year of actions by the legislature. And those are online on the county website for on the legislature page. And the agendas and actions each month are also on there. So those stay on until the Journal of Proceedings for that year is completed, because the completion of a Journal of Proceedings is a big project. So we have a couple of years last couple of years, we don't have journal of proceedings yet so all the actions are still listed on there month by month for the legislature. So they're there, but it's a enormous undertaking to look through those and say, oh yeah, in 1984, they passed a resolution that said we should do this and it's never been rescinded.
And just, if I might,
No, I don't have time to take my testing, for my training, let alone look through those proceedings, and that's to my point. is,
well, and the
how
fun
do
thing
we
with the
do that?
proceedings, and you and I were looking for a resolution from a few years ago, just a couple months ago. And this isn't a complaint, this is a reality. Trying to find a resolution, I don't know about you, but 5 years ago was last year to me. So you start trying to review those. So the difficulty of finding a resolution that you're looking for is very difficult. Not a complaint, it's just difficult.
Sure.
Now let's try to find resolutions that we're not looking for,
Yeah.
which is what we're saying here.
Right.
Well,
You know what I mean?
yeah, because I've gotten many requests from various people that require, I've spent many times digging through the journals. You find one resolution, it references another resolution, and another, and another, and your
Right.
next thing you know, you're going back to 1960.
But now we're talking about resolutions we're not even looking for.
Well,
How do we?
I have a handful that I can share with you that I'm aware of.
Okay.
The other thing where there would be requirements of a committee or a legislature audit and control would be in a corrective action plan. Those on the investments, that's not a resolution. It was a corrective action plan as a result of a comptroller audit, and that corrective action plan lists out responsibilities going forward as well.
And that was
So-
adopted by resolution, by the way.
For the water district, but not the previous one, for the one that addressed the investments and the payroll, the management payroll.
That wasn't covered by resolution?
I don't recall, Susan was here then, but, I don't know if a corrective action plan would have been passed by resolution.
It should have been if it wasn't.
We'd have that.
I almost thought of.
I don't know if it has to be, but.
It would have been either myself or So I know the clerk's office has been digitizing some of those, and you're anxiously awaiting.
If I may,
Sure.
we digitized we scanned and made them searchable. The journals of proceedings going back to, I believe, the 40s, and then there was a generalized one that went from 1811 to the point we cut off on. That was just in the last few months, so they're searchable on the intranet. You can do Control F, which just finds it, and then look for keywords throughout that. But this sparked another idea, which honestly is going to take time to complete. But in our recording, our county clerk record software, there's a way to link relevant documents. So the plan would be to start obviously with the most recent and then slowly work our way back. So all resolutions, local laws that relate to one another can be searched together. And then it will end up leading you down a rabbit hole. Like you find one, reference 1963, and then you reference that, you can go all the way back. But that is something that is on a list to be done once we're able to do it.
When you search a keyword, don't put in whereas or resolve.
Yeah, don't do that.
I mean, just reviewing the index is useful just because that's kind of gives you at least the title of all the resolutions and then the page number you can refer back. That's a lot what I do.
It's a lot to manage, and that's why I just want to have this conversation today, because there's no way that any of us can know every resolution, and when, where, and how, and that we can, but
Not
it is
until
our
we need to.
responsibility to be able to
Or
manage
think
that,
we need to.
facilitate that, and how do we effectively do it?
So, Mr. Chairman, both Mr. Chairmans, would this be something we want to look at next month? Or since there'll be possibly some committee changes in January?
Yes, there will be committee changes in January.
So maybe that should be looked at, you know, by different,
So, I wanna just channel that back to our committee only. Look at what it only ascertains with audit control.
Right.
Our conversation has gotten broad in the sense of, it is a broad conversation. But just for next month, just let's look at audit control
Okay.
specifically.
Okay.
And at least we've done our part as a audit control committee.
Okay.
So, and we'll keep it as simple as that.
okay.
As for the other broader topic, I will do that to the
I will do
chair.
this if you have all your training done.
I will, I will do that.
This committee is going to be the pilot for how we do this. You're going to set the standard for the other committees. How am I doing? How am I doing?
Might not be too high of a bar.
It's a start.
It's a start, yes.
Actually, I've never looked at this, either one of them. I haven't had the occasion to have to. It'll be interesting to go over the rules of the legislature.
There you go.
And just see maybe what we don't need.
You ought to do this every 14 years or so, huh?
I think it's a great time as the Charter and Code Review Committee is being appointed, and jotting these questions down and saying what is needed. Because again, there's things, I mean, I do remember, not off topic, but I think in the village of Fredonia, it's still a law, you're not allowed to have any cows grazing in Barker Commons. Well, I think when that law was written, it was very prudent, but is it really needed now? So that in jest, it's the same things here. I don't think we have any of that up. Right, I mean, it seems that we, at the time, they felt like a really good idea.
Yes.
But as the legislature's evolved, as our committees have changed, I mean, we've condensed committees, combined committees, restructured committees. So where that was written in 1997 or 1998 or 2000 is completely different. And I'm with you, I think 2000 was a couple days ago, and we're looking nearly a quarter of a century ago. So you're right, but it's the right time. You know, I think and I think there's things just, it makes, in my position, it makes the county government more efficient, more effective when, all those things are understood.
Just gotta try our best, that's all, and, it's a mundane task. Tracking down all those resolutions is another topic. And, I won't task this committee with that. I just ask that.
Thank
we
you.
Stick to our charter and our rules as a legislature, and unfortunately, if some of those, I suppose if some of those resolutions were specific for a committee, then it is our diligence in, searching those sounds easy enough, but it's, anything else under other today? Not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
A motion that we adjourn.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We are adjourned. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you. You're
Maybe
all
jump up.
for your.
You stopped well.
Yes, you did.
I would.
I didn't know.
I will do everything I can to
Because my thought.